Hello, good afternoon. So today I'm going to tell a true crime story, and it is about a young 14-year-old Claudette Carolyn Covey that was taken and raped and murdered. Now, this happened in a small town about 30 minutes from San Antonio, Texas. The town is named Hondo. It's Medina County. Um, it's it was known for the world's largest air navigation school, um, and it's also known for the corruption. And so, yeah, so let's get into it. So, February 14th, 1961, 14-year-old Claudette Carolyn Covey was walking to um, her store that was about 6 blocks from her house. Um, she was walking to go get paper for a school project. And um, she was pulled. Well, let's rewind this. I'm sorry, guys. So 6 months prior to this her disappearance and murder, she was at a local park where everyone, when they got out of school, all the younger high school students and younger kids would go and meet up at a park in Hondo, and on the weekends also. So she was there with her sister, and this guy was asking, he's 19-year-old Charlie Hitzfelder Jr. He was there as well, and he was asking some of the local, kids or whatever, high school students, who was she? He was asking about her. So then, after asking everyone that he was around about her, he walks up to her, and he told her that if she would like to go on a date. She told him no. And so, well, he didn't take no for an answer, apparently, because then 6 months later, on February 14th, he seen her walking. And witnesses say that he pulled to her and asked if she wanted a ride. And she said no. So then what he didn't stop there. He just pulls over and got out of the vehicle and went at her and was telling her something. It's not, certain what exactly was told to her, but whatever he told her, the next thing that when the witness turned around, he was helping her into his car. By the look of her face, she really didn't look like she wanted to go, but they left. And this happened, like I said, 4 blocks or whatever from her house, as she was walking to the store that was close by. Anyways, another witness said that they seen her going, him and her, Charles Hitzfeld Jr. and Claudette Carolyn Covey were heading towards out of town, out of Hondo. And this is when she was raped. And yeah. So then another witness came forward, and said that so whenever she was taken and raped, she was brought back into town by the Charles Hitzfelder Jr. When she was brought back into town, he went to his father's house that was like in the middle of Hondo, um, that was like, I guess, um, a little house, a little neighborhood in the middle of Hondo, Texas. Anyways, so he takes Claudette Carolyn Covey in the trunk of his vehicle over to his dad's house, which is Charles Hitzfelder Sr. And two witnesses that lived right there in the neighborhood, seen Charles Hitzfelder Sr. come out, go down the sidewalk, go to the trunk, and Charles Hitzfelder Jr. opens the trunk. They're over there talking about what's going on, whatever. And then the next thing you know, well, it looked like a girl was in the trunk from what one of the witnesses, said. It looked like somebody was in the trunk, looked like a female. Well, the next thing that happened is Sheriff Charles Hitzfelder takes out his pistol and shoots twice inside the trunk. And then they were talking, and he shot the son, Charles Hitzfelder, excuse me, Jr. Closes the trunk, slams the trunk, and he gets in the car, and his Charles Hitzfelder Sr., the sheriff, walks back to his house up the sidewalk. They heard two gunshots, and a witness did see him shooting inside the trunk. These people of this town are very, they were in fear of him. He's what you call a long arm of the law back then. The whole time he was sheriff, there was nothing but crooked, corrupt, and just fear. The criminals even feared him. The townspeople feared him. And he would always refer to the other side of the tracks being the wrong side of the tracks. And that's where the Hispanics and the poor whites were living. And he always referred to that side of town as the wrong side of the tracks. And that's where Claudette Carolyn Covey was from. Okay, well, his son, Charles Hitzfelder Jr., was 19 years old, and he was wanting to get with Claudette Carolyn Covey, which was 14 years old. And he, didn't take the first no for an answer. He didn't take the second no. And, her body was found, her remains were found 9 months later on Halloween day in about 5 or 6 miles out of Hondo in a field. And her skull had 2 bullet wounds to the skull, or 2 bullet holes in the skull. And so while everyone was trying to figure out, or supposedly, the townspeople were all skeptical, because a lot of them did see the sheriff's son with Claudette Carolyn Covey, or her with in his vehicle. And when they heard that she was missing, they automatically suspected they had something to do with it. Well, the parents of Claudette Carolyn Covey, Mr. and Mrs. Covey, after she didn't come home for about an hour, the wife was worried, Mrs. Covey, and she called Mr. Covey. And when the other kids came from wherever they were at, because she had sisters, when they came in, she asked them, have you seen your sister? Where's your sister? They've let her walk to the store plenty of times. Hondo wasn't a town that young kids would come up missing. There was murders in the town, but it was mainly the sheriff killing adults and whatever business deals that went wrong. But there was never anything heard of younger kids coming up missing and being, killed. So they didn't think anything, So when she never came in, they started getting worried. Like, this is 2 hours gone by. Where's she at? And Mr. Covey, when he got off from work, they went to go look for her. They could not find her anywhere. They asked around the town. Some of the town's people on that side of the tracks went to go help look for her. Then they went to the police station and said that, she was missing. And the police told her that it was too soon, that they should go back home and wait for her. She'll probably, come in. She did not. So they went back up there, and Sheriff Hitzfelder was the one that spoke with them at that time. And he told them to go back home again and wait for her, because she's just a teenager. She probably just ran away. Well, she loved her family, and her family loved her very much. She didn't just run away. And the Coveys knew this, Mr. and Mrs. Covey. So they knew with her not coming home something was terribly wrong, and Mrs. Covey could feel something was very in her body, and so um, they did put in a finally the I think the Rangers and everyone got involved, and they did do a search, and that's when her remains were found in a field about 6 miles, I think it was actually 6 miles out of Hondo, and she and the sheriff Hitzfelder let Miss Covey go out there, took her out there, and when they found the skull, he threw it in her lap and said, "This is what you've been crying for." Yes, and they did write a book on this murder and stuff, and the that was very misleading. There was a lot of things that were not true in the book. She never was in a relationship with Charles Hitz Jr., and Claudette Carolyn Covey was never pregnant by him. So this is where the author of the book, I don't know where he got that stuff from, but yes, that he was not. They were never in a relationship, and she was never pregnant by Charles Hitzfelder Jr. So, anyways, so there's uh, a lot that isn't known, that's not known, actually known, but from what I am telling you, this came from the parents themselves, and I'm making this telling her story because she is not forgotten. She's gone, but she's never going to be forgotten, and she was my aunt. And I just want her story to be out there because she was loved and she's missed, and I think it needs to be addressed, and it needs to go. I want her to be remembered, and also, you know the pain and the suffering that the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Covey, had to go through, which is my grandmother and grandpa, what they had to go through, and what we as grandchildren had to go through with this happening to my aunt. She with it changed them. It really seriously changed them, mentally, and um, I know that they used to like really, really be so upset and suffered from her, murder, her disappearance and her murder, and they never Charles Hitzfelder Jr. and Charles Hitzfelder Sr., they were never held accountable. They covered it up. He's what you call long arm of the law. This Charles Hitzfelder Jr. was actually a serial killer because after his first kill, which was Claudette Carolyn Covey, he then went between San Antonio and Houston to, um, I think it was, uh, well, it was in between Hondo, San Antonio, and Houston. He would kill young girls that favored Claudette Carolyn Covey in any time, any way, and so um, if he this happened to a few of these young girls, and he was never tried or convicted, or he was arrested on one in Galveston. He was arrested for a young girl's murder, but his father's what you call long arm of the law. He was very corrupt, and he made sure things would happen. He made sure things would happen. And he wasn't about to let his son go, get in any trouble for anything. So he did what he had to do, and that was never he was never brought up on charges or convicted for any of these murders. And you know, so I personally, me, in my opinion, and everybody, this is the United States. We're all entitled to our own opinion. I feel that somebody that murders another person should be killed. And that's just my opinion. But I really feel that way, and it might not be right in some people's eyes, but I mean, it doesn't matter because if you can take someone's life, and especially a young girl at that, and fear and the pain and the hurt and the just just the fear in her face, knowing that she is did nothing wrong, and you see this in her face begging for her life, and you still take her life. I don't care if you are a sheriff, if you are a, I don't care what you are. If you take someone else's life like that, then you can lose your life as well. And that's a lot. And this is a lot. I mean, I know there's corruption in a lot of towns. There's even corruption in the United States government and our presidency. There's corruption everywhere. But the small towns, they are some. I mean, like Hondo is very no. Hondo, Texas, is a very corrupt. It's corrupt. The law, and the sheriff's department, um, all the way to the courts and the judges, and they're very corrupt. That place is very corrupt, and a lot of it has to do with race. That town was very racist then, and it still is. If you are not full Caucasian with a well-known last name and married, or have your own kin inside the police, to the courts, to the sheriff's department, then, or with a lot of money, you're nothing. You can't get any kind of leniency, anything. They will go to extent to make sure you are out of there. And with the sheriff being a white, corrupt, sheriff that everyone was in fear of, he was never prosecuted, never brought up on charges. Everyone in the town knew that he killed Claudette Carolyn Covey, and that his son had something to do with it, with her being, picked up and stuff like that, and raped. But nothing was ever done because everyone was so scared. And, I think you should be held accountable regardless. A crime is a crime. You do a criminal, you're a criminal, or you do something that is against the law, then you need to pay the price regardless of who you are. It doesn't matter. If you committed the crime, then you should pay the price, regardless what you are, whether you're into the system or you're not. And that has a lot, and that's a lot of, a lot that is, I guess, wrong about our legal system. And me personally, that's how I feel. I feel like if you take a life, then you should lose your life. Not only do I think that would be less, people murdering people, but, I mean, come on now. Um, but I just wanted to tell her story to let everyone hear, and also keep her that alive, that she is remembered. She may not, she's gone, but she's never forgotten, and she's loved. I've never like had the opportunity, of course, or the chance to actually get to know her, but I know that she was a good person. She was a great young girl, and her life was taken way too soon at the hands of a corrupt sheriff and his son that never were held as responsible, never held accountable for this murder. And that sucks. That's what hurts the most, you know? But yeah, so this is a just a tragedy, It was a tragedy. And the parents had to suffer tremendously. And being a parent, I can only imagine, because your thoughts are, why wasn't I there? Why couldn't I keep her? Why that she's thinking, what about, like, you weren't here to save me, or just the fear of her fixing to die and not having anyone, to help her, to protect her. As being a parent, that can really work on you. It can make you lose it, you know? And to have that much hate and rage in you, to be able to take someone's life like that, that's innocent, just because you were told no, that you can't mess with that person or go on a date with that person, so you want to rape and kill someone. That's, there should have been, I mean, it should have, they should have paid the price, regardless of being a sheriff and the son. He should have paid the price for every murder. They are, both passed on a long time, about, I guess, 20 years ago now, 30 years ago. But the point of the fact is, this, it's not okay. It's not okay for anyone in any higher up places to commit murder and not be held accountable for it. So that's the end of this true crime story. And yeah, like, subscribe, and share. And tell me your thoughts in the comments. What is your thoughts on a life being taken? Should it be a life for life, or what do you think? So until next time, bye.